Why is this? Who am I? Another answered, not by voice, but somehow he heard. You're my son. What's a son? You're my very first creation. What does creation mean? I'll show you around after a little more creating. You're also my only joy. Astonishingly, he knew what joy is and felt absolutely wonderful. Source shared the very essence of who he is, and suddenly the son started to learn and comprehend very truly, extremely fast. He mysteriously understood atomic forces, protons, electrons, neutrons, neutrinos, recurring and changing inorganic and organic molecules. Vistas of astonishing beauty opened up for him. He became ecstatic while gazing at forests, oceans, rivers, lakes, mountains, skies, worlds, suns, stars, galaxies and universes. He was everywhere with this magnificent one. He asked, "Who are you?" "I am," was the reply. He instantly comprehended his own name and being is Christ. He became aware this is his Father, whose very nature is to give and teach all he knows, and he knows everything. Christ knew he was not in any way separate or different from God and understood he is not a part of God but an extension of the whole. Christ supremely became as powerful, compassionate, and most importantly as loving as his Creator. Due to the infinite wisdom of I Am, they stopped short of creating life to populate all that is. In their beautiful minds, they knew exactly what to do when God would say the moment was perfect. They envisioned the aquatic life, myriads of different flying species, all animal life, and the harmony of the varying interconnected environments. Their creations would also be gifted with the ability to co-create. Every question the Son asked was instantly answered. However, when Christ innocently asked a question that was like, what else is there? God, for the first time, did not answer because there is nothing else but Source's perfect creation. Horrifyingly fast, Christ felt fear, a petrifying unknown. Christ designed this universe in a tiny instant of insanity. The Big Bang occurred. He mistakenly thought his communication with God was permanently severed and entered into a dream state of illusion. The first ego was created, a mind that believes it's completely on its own. God knew his son was dreaming because they were no longer communicating. Knowing his son's power because it's his own, Source understood he could not enter the dream because there was a risk the dream would become real to him as well. If God forgot heaven, heaven would no longer be. To solve the first and only problem there ever was or ever will be, God's second creation occurred, the Holy Spirit. The Spirit was placed into the dreaming mind of Christ and was created with the divine ability to view God's perfect heaven while also viewing the Son's imperfect dream. God's second creation is in every mind alive, all 9 billion in the year 2024. So those dreaming of poverty, prison, war, addiction, pollution, worry, depression, hate and fear can turn to the voice for God within and listen to the truth that none of what they're experiencing is real. Life outside of heaven is impossible. In that tiny instant, Christ had forgotten how to laugh, how to love. The Holy Spirit showed Christ the love of God in his forgotten memory of heaven, plus all the horrors that occurred in his ego's dream of time. Christ chose again and woke up in the heaven he'd never left. Jesus' name is not Jesus Christ, it's Jesus of Nazareth. He understood perfectly he is one with Christ, who is one with God. So are you, so am I. We are all bipolar. The right side of our mind is based on spirit and truth. The wrong side is our tiny ego based on fear and lies. Fear of what? In the deepest part of our subconsciousness, we fear God. Choose again and know this is our ego's insanity. We are his first creation, we are Christ. We are not bodies, we are free and are exactly as God created us and have simply forgotten. Jesus told a parable in the Bible called the prodigal son. A king's son took his vast inheritance and went to a far land, squandering all his wealth on wine and women. He became impoverished. He thought, my father's servants live far better than this. I'll return and beg for forgiveness. Perhaps I can work in a vineyard. The king became aware his son was returning and said, prepare a feast. My son was lost, but now is found. A few days ago, the thought occurred to me that Christ was the first prodigal son. After he was healed, Christ must have understood something also previously unknown, what it felt like to be forgiven. Although God doesn't forgive because he sees nothing to forgive, Christ knows what he felt. While being crucified, Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He said this to place into the collective human psyche the extreme importance of forgiveness. Our mind is immensely powerful because it's an extension of God's mind. Our ego invented the lies of Satan and hell to put the enemy out there, and diabolically came up with the falsehood of fear God. Why? So we wouldn't look for our true enemy ourselves and not depend on our real strength in God. So how do we defeat our ego? Don't feed it. It derives its power from our mind. Whenever we're depressed, angry or fearful, we're listening to our ego and feeding it. Pray, Holy Spirit, for my highest good and the highest good of all, thank you for perfection in listening to the sacred silence between my thoughts. You'll find this silence enveloping you with a deep peace, and your egotistic, fearful thoughts will leave. Our ego is like an onion. Peel away a layer, and it still looks and smells like an onion. Every time we forgive a perceived wrong, we're peeling away another layer. One glorious moment as promised by God, our last layer will vanish into the nothingness which it is, and will awaken in the heaven we've never left. The guidance for a beaver to build a dam, a bird to build a nest, a flock of birds to fly in V formation, the spider to spin her web, a rose to bloom, or the hibernation of animals in the winter, comes from Christ's presence in every moment. The timing always comes perfectly and represents harmony, balance, order and unity. Nature comes together to represent the synchronicity of the oneness as life unfolds. These kingdoms, mineral, plant, insect and animal, do not have free will and are directly connected to the Christ mind and stay consciously aware at every moment. We can remember and also become consciously aware by listening to the Holy Spirit. Once we understand, we are also always connected to the universal mind and never separate from the oneness of life. We learn to trust our feelings, thus consciously reconnecting to understand our perfection. No matter what's occurring in our dream, if we have a growing peace, we know we're on the right path for ourselves and those we love. We're not human beings, but glorious Christ beings forever. God is. Bob